What's up, everybody? This is Tarafdar back with a brand new video. It's a live today, so I don't know how many people can hear me or see me. I'm using the interface from Google here. If you guys can hear me, just let me know. Just type in a yes as you're coming into the chat. Okay, guys, this is Ali once again. If you guys can hear me, please type in a yes in the chat, and we'll continue shortly thereafter. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Okay. Let's see. See, normally it shows me how many people are here, but for some reason it's not showing. Let's see. Can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, just type in a yes. Okay, guys, back. Can you guys hear me? We're doing a live. Let's see here. Yeah, okay, so I'm seeing yeses. All right, perfect. No, it's good. You guys are good. For some reason, my chat is not coming up on the computer. I can see it on my phone. It's crazy. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Okay. So let me see what I can do. Maybe I can fix this. It says group chat. You know what? I got an idea. I'll pull up the chat from the actual live. Perfect. All right, good. Welcome, guys. Welcome for those who are attending right now. First things first, we're going to talk a little bit about primary trade lines. As promised today, the reason for this video is very critical to, I guess, a lot of people, especially those who are going through the credit repair journey, or who are actually in the process of, fixing their own credit, if they're doing it on their own, or if those who are not doing it on their own, who have employed other individuals to do it for them. I want to take my time to really explain everything I need to give you guys heads up on, possibly helping you get some clarity when it comes to primary trade lines. So I'm going to pop up this chat. Just waiting for YouTube. Okay, perfect. Yeah, now I can see the chat properly. So Google's Hangout interface is terrible for some reason. I apologize. And of course, there's a little bit of delay there as well. So I have it open on the side, and you guys can ask away questions, as you need to during this whole session. So lately, what's happening is a lot of people are coming in and doing credit repair, and they're adding all these type of service providers and saying, look, hey, we got this primary and that primary, just apply with them, or add them to your portfolio to increase your credit scores, to leverage it. And I think what's happening also with that is the fact that a lot of people are just getting started, right? So the biggest thing with primary trade lines, and the reason for this talk today, is there's two types of primary trade lines, right? A lot of us are so accustomed to, the fact of, hey, There's primary trade lines like, Jewelers Club, My Jewelers Club. You have New Coast Direct. You have all these type of other individuals. And these are private lines, right? So they're non-essentials. So what I mean by non-essentials are you cannot use those type of primary trade lines outside of their own resources or where they're at when it comes to, let's say, utilization. So when you look at it this way, is if you're using a My Jewelers Club and you apply for that primary trade line, the only benefit to it is the fact that you can actually use that and only in the store of like My Jewelers, like the online store, right? Because that's where it's going to be. You can only use it there. But also the fact of the matter is you're getting a $5,000 trade line, which is helping you increase your score, supposedly, right? So that's a non-essential. Then there's the essentials. So the essentials are, and by terminology, you guys might think, hey, look, this sounds all like, financial planning and stuff like that. But I want you to stick with me, okay? So there's a non-essential ones, like New Coast Direct is a non-essential. And the reason why, it's because the line that you get with New Coast Direct is specifically for the purposes of using it in New Coast Direct. My Jewelers Club, same thing. It's a non-essential. The role of the new My Jewelers Club is to use it in that store only. So if you go through the list of primaries that you guys are getting, you have to break it down onto two different categories. You have to say, well, is this primary going to be an essential? And what I mean by essential is you can go out there and universally use that like if it was cash. So if you get a major credit card, let's say Visa, MasterCard, Amex, or some accounts, like Discover. If you use those type of cards, these are called essentials because you can swipe them anywhere and they're accepted pretty much in a lot of different merchants across the world. They have a huge distribution network. So the essentials are really the key to increasing the likelihood of the amount of funding you get. So if you're going out there and you're fixing your credit and you diversify your file, which is all great and dandy, the different types of accounts you can have, and that's including revolving, student loans, believe it or not, of course, not like $500,000 student loan debt, but decent enough, paid off, get positive payment history. You have car loans, financing like that, specific type of loans that are temporary, let's say a 12-month installment, and you paid it off in 3 or something like that. So objectively, these are diverse accounts, right? These are things that you can actually look at and say, hey, I can use that as a way to increase the level of my credit. They're diverse accounts. They're considerate towards my credit profile. And then the other side, right? The other side is that you have your essentials, which are like, hey, I applied for Visa or MasterCard. I got X amount of dollars as a limit, and I'm building up my profile from that perspective. Positive payment history, things like, hey, I got a Visa with, let's say, Navy Federal, whatever amount of limit I got. I start with them, and I start increasing the limits I get with them over time because I build a positive payment history. I wait a good 12 months or at least 6 to go and attempt a limit increase, and then I continue building up that. So the more heavy your essentials are, and you guys know this by now, essentials mean like a Visa, MasterCard, Amex, anywhere that you can use across the world with different merchants that are not specifically tied to a specific company. That's an essential. So the heavier your essentials are, the more likely you'll get a lot more money from financial institutions and lenders. Because if they were to break it down, the network and the distribution of these primaries in their category of underwriting, they can say, look, in the ratio of essentials to non-essentials, how many of them do you have in terms of non-essentials? It doesn't matter what size they are, because at the end of the day, the size they are is based on the strength of the merchant, the strength of distribution, is the strength of, let's say, how big they are as a financial entity. So if you look at essentials, Visa, Amex, MasterCard, these are usually companies like that have a lot of credit that is tied into the Visa network, American Express network, the MasterCard network. They're acquirers. They have hundreds of millions of dollars in assets that they can use. In fact, billions of dollars in assets that they can use to back their credibility. So if they look at and break down your credit reports with the essentials and non-essentials, where do you stand? So it's good that you can apply for primary trade lines. It's good for a fact of increasing your scores. That's for sure. But here's what I want you guys to do as well, right? So most of you who bought my course, the Ultimate Personal Credit Mastery, I tell you, and a breakdown of the report is, look, one of the things, and I'm gonna give you a like small little nugget of the course there. But one of the things I always tell my students is, look at the creditors that you have, and I mean essential ones, right? Open revolving essentials, and call them. And the reason you want to call them, and the reason I say that it's important to work with essentials, is because you're working the credit muscles of the acquirers and the institutions that have size. So it's it's important to look at that and really look at the history you have with them if you have good positive payment history, and call them and say, look, can I get a limit increase? If I can, without the need of a hard inquiry, I'm just trying to build my credit. As you guys can tell, and you'd have a historical conversation with them, because you'll say, look, there are certain questions you'd absolutely ask your creditors, which I have a list of questions on the course actually, but just to give you guys a heads up, you'd ask a series of questions, and you can start off by asking them, hey, look, how long you've been with them for? And usually you start becoming, very, very comfortable with the rep on the other side, because they know you're a good client. You have nothing to be afraid of. You didn't miss any payments, right? Given the fact that you've probably been with them for 12 months, what you're doing is you're going in there and you're asking these primary trade line sources, essential ones, right? These are major credit cards and financial institutions. And you're saying, look, in the merits of our history together, is there certain things you can do for me? Because I'd like to increase the level of how my credit is looked at by other individuals. I want to go out there and borrow perhaps other financial products from you guys. Can I qualify for a promotional increase based on my historical events with you guys in terms of positive payment history, the time on which the length I have history with you guys, and so on and so forth, right? So that's what you guys have to that effect. So look at that and call your creditors, right? And again, they have to be revolving and open. If they're not, then I mean, what you can do, and there's certain tricks to that, is, look at the same financial institution if you have positive payment history with them in the past, and then see if you can open or reapply with a card with the limit where you left off at. Let's say if you had a $5,000 to $10,000 limit in the past, and you guys left it off at that, see if you can reactivate or at least reapply with the same conditions of where you left off. Sometimes what happens is they just start you out with half. So if you close an account at $10,000 in the past, they granted it, then they say, yeah, that's fine, and we close it for you. You're not using it, it's not active, but you had good positive payment history with them regardless. And and it's not been too long. Let's assume it's been like a year or two. If it's been more than like 5 or 6 years, you're gonna have a hard time just pulling back the records, because they archived their database, I think, in a 7 to 8 year period. So to pull that back, if you have 15 years before and then all of a sudden they shut it down, and it's been like 5 or 6 years now, it's going to be a brand new application. But the good thing to that is that you actually have positive relationship with that financial institution as an essential, right? So you can start off with, and there's going to have hard inquiry implications, but how likely is it that they'll approve you? Much higher, because you don't have any negative marks with them, and then you can start off with that conversation, right? You have to look at the institutions also that you have a deposit account with. Some credit unions, some major tier 1 institutions like BOA, US Bank, Citi, all these guys, even Chase. So what I'm trying to say here is, it's good that you guys want primary trade lines. I respect the fact that everybody wants to go after that, because, it's a shortcut to increasing your score. And from the list of questions that I had, displayed in terms of what are you guys looking for when it comes to funding, the majority of you guys answered, and I'm not sure if it's universal to whoever's on this live stream today, but from what I've seen, the majority of you guys answered, I want to start a business. I want to increase the level of capital that I have, or leverage the amount of capital I can get for my business, either to grow it or to scale it, or whatever the case. Now, that's a different topic, and we're going to talk about business, possibly in another live stream. But even at that, right? Even at that, if you need funding, that means you're probably going to borrow on a personal level. And if you want to at least guarantee your companies, you probably want to get as much as you can with that level of credit that you have on a personal level. So if that's the case, then whatever you leave off with, especially today in terms of chat, I want you to think about the essentials. When you work your primaries, read your reports, there's 3 things you have to look at. First is the history that you have with a specific creditor, the length, positive, especially if it's a year, it's great, you go ahead. Second thing you want to take away is you want to have a decent conversation and build rapport with your financial institution as to, your history, your payment positive history, the length in which you've been with them, And a request is the third thing, which is ask for promos. Ask to see if they can extend you credit without the need to go through your hard inquiry process or to pull your credit from the 3 bureaus. So you work your essentials first. And the simultaneous side, like you can actually add your non-essentials. Keep a good ratio. A lot of people go hectic. Like, they start their credit repair process and then they start adding all these primaries and they go berserk. They start getting this one, that one. Some of them do hard inquiry and some of them don't do it, et cetera, et cetera. The reality is, right, if you were an underwriter, and I want you to think in the mind of an underwriter, I want you to think about dissecting these essentials and non-essentials and spreading them out and looking at the value of what they provide. So the ratio usually works out where a lot of people who clean up their credit have a lot more non-essentials than they actually have essentials. And the reason for that is because, they've never really had the time, or they're probably not were in a circumstances to be financially educated, but took a lot of risks and, burned a lot of bridges that were essentials. The problem with that is the essentials have a network and a good distribution, and they're, well insured. And they have all the databases that are shared amongst each other outside of the realm of what we know on a personal level when it comes to fixing a credit. The last thing you want to do is to burn that down, right? But if you have not had the privilege of sustaining those relationships and you're just starting out fresh because you want to start a new day, a new chapter in your life, then the best thing you can actually do for yourself is don't be too eager to get a lot of credit right away, because that's going to take some time. Establishing those essentials is going to take some time. Some people, what they do is they shortcut those essentials by adding authorized users. And by the time you're done spending all this money fixing your credit, you would have bought yourself like a secondhand, brand new, like almost 2018 car, right? What I'm saying, guys, is you can do it on your own. If you're thinking of shortcuts, it's not going to work, okay? Because let me give you a metaphor. I like to use every context that I discuss with in metaphors. You can shortcut as much as you want, but if I put you in a unique, let's say Bugatti, that's very fast and it requires skill to drive, and you're on a track that's like drag race, right? And it's got a lot of loops and turns, and you can say, oh man, I want that Bugatti. But let's say to get that Bugatti, you have to go through that drag race, and I put you in the driver's seat, and you're in that driver's seat, not starting your engine and pressing the gas and slowly picking up speed. You're in that Bugatti at 210 miles an hour, coming up across like there's a curve that's going to happen. What's going to happen to you? Are you skilled enough to handle that, right? And I bet most of you will say absolutely not. And most of you, you guys enjoy the adrenaline, so yeah, for sure I can do it. But for the most part, you guys will say, nah, I'm not ready for that. That's not what I expected, right? There's a huge curve that happens. The possibility, and imagine it's like on a high hill or some sort of mountain. You can tip over and fall, and that's the end of it. That's what can happen to your credit. What I'm trying to say here is you want to build this huge profile, and the speed that you're building it up is very good, and you get all this funding, and this funding is basically the avalanche in speed. And most of you guys, and I'm not saying this to put anybody down, I'm saying this because even I went through this, and I'm guilty of this in the past. When I was younger, I got so excited when I had access to money. I took all sorts of chances, investing in businesses. I'm not saying you're going to invest in frivolous things, but I'm just saying that we just get excited, right? We want to give ourselves, we're so eager to give ourselves a second chance that we don't see the curve ahead. It's becoming foggy. It's like landing let's say an Airbus A380 in a small runway. It's just not going to work. You're going at a certain speed and velocity. You need certain, headway in order to properly create a landing and effectively be safe. Even with, let's say, the Bugatti turn, right? So think of your credit like that, right? Think of your credit like that. The essential is the driving experience that you have with handling that Bugatti, for example, right? The rest is literally like the little tweaks, the little steps that you can take on a performance enhancement. Those are the non-essentials. So in your relationship to fixing your credit, even if you have a clean slate and you have one or two non-essentials, and your prime goal is to create those essentials, that's a very good first step. Because what you're doing is you're leap years ahead of a lot of people who are way too eager to get money. And because of the fact that they get access to all this capital, they spend so much money getting there in the first place. They end up crashing big, and then they recycle and and it's going to be more and more expensive every time, right? Because what happens is there's a lot more dangers that you're dragging along with it, and not to mention all the bridges that you burn alongside. So in your goal to prosperity with credit, I want you guys to really think about, what you're harvesting. Are you harvesting the essentials or non-essential? If you were to break it down, split the paper in two and say, here's my essentials, here's my non-essentials, what's the ratio? If your non-essentials and their limits are much higher than the essentials, and you end up spending a lot of money with authorized users, which are, by the way, not essentials, because you cannot use them outside of whatever they're meant to. In fact, they're not even non-essentials. They're non-existent outside of the score metrics, right? Because you can't even use them at all, not even in the store. So if you look at that ratio and say, well, look, I can get funding using those, and you can build up your channel of, let's say, the essentials. The problem is like, we go back to that reference with the Bugatti and the 210 miles an hour, and it's a drag, a dirt racing, a dirt track where you're about to go into a twist and curve. You have to be careful on what's happening there. Are you ready for it? And all these type of things. And the reason I say that is because, like I said, we get so eager to give ourselves second chances that we take all these risks. And if your habits in terms of handling money and your attitude towards it and your mindset on what you need to do, and you're absolutely determined to fix it, is not adjusted because of the circumstances you went through, and you haven't gone through the effective level of education that's necessary for you to make the wiser and better choice, you better make damn sure that airbag is good, to save your life, let alone the lives of the family that's, with you, or your loved ones, or your parents, or let's say your children, your grandchildren. So that's the goal. So, breaking down the primaries, you have the essentials, the non-essentials. Goal is increase the level of essentials. Look at your credit reports. Look at the history you have, the payment history. Build context. Build some rapport with the institution. Have a discussion. Ask them for promos and whether or not they can pull up your credit without the need to actually give you a hard inquiry, and apply immediately on the things that you have established in terms of a positive payment with them and the length of history you've had with them. And still simultaneously apply for non-essentials, and keep the ratio between 2 to 1. So if you have, let's say, one non-essential, try to work with creditors that you've had in the past to have, essentials, at least 2 of them. This way it gives you a nice little diversity. At worst case scenario, if you've been in the past where you burned a lot of bridges, unfortunately, because of circumstances, and you can't for the life of you figure out how to build those essentials, start with secured credit cards. Because at the end of the day, you guys are going to spend like $2,000-$3,000 on primaries, $2,000-$3,000 in AUs, and spend like $5,000 to $6,000 just to get your credit fixed. Why not just take this information and take the $2,000, get a secured card with an essential, with a prime bank, and just build that up? It's a lot more effective than if you were to get a non-essential. So, I know it's difficult at the beginning. You're probably not getting the whole picture, but what I'm trying to say is, if you want to get a lot more funding, if your essentials are in good ratio, you have good, let's say, limits on them over time as you built them, you're probably going to get a lot more funding than if the creditors were to look at your non-essentials and say, well, these are not really in our distribution network. So we're not really sure of how to handle the underwriting process, but we'll give you money anyways. And then you have these AUs, which is great. They can work, right? But the problem is you're spending a lot of money for a short period of time. Like, these AUs are not going to be universal to you. You don't have the flexibility. When it's gone, you apply for funding, it's done. What about the times after that certainly you need emergency money? Are you going to go back and pay for an AU? You need money. So if you had the essentials ready, and if you had good history with them and the limits, you don't need these AUs. You can go out there and basically apply for the essentials. They're going to give you access to cash and liquidity for these type of emergencies. If you read it on my book, or I actually shared it with you guys on the first, the 6th chapter, I had an ebook. I did an audio version for it. It's about an hour long, and I actually discussed it with a friend of mine that went through the same scenario. But just keep that in mind, guys, right? This is the type of education that you need. You guys know, like, I'm not here to BS you. I can see all sorts of packages, but is it really going to help you? No, I don't think so. Fact of the matter is, one day you're going to wake up and say, Ali, man, I trusted you. And I expected more of you. Why didn't you teach me the right way of doing it? And maybe you blame me. Maybe you'll blame yourself. It doesn't matter. My goal is that let's not blame anybody, and let's do it right from the get-go. Why take the chance, right? That's the thing with primaries, okay? So that's the breakdown. So, guys, what do you think is important? I want you to tell me in the chat, okay? What is more important, essentials or non-essentials? So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a minute just to, pick up on the thoughts that I just shared with you. And I want you to tell me what's more important, essentials or non-essential primaries. Go ahead, guys. I'm waiting. That's right. Sam, that's right. Essentials. Guys, anybody else? What do you think is more important? Essentials or not essentials? Right? Why is it? Why is it that essentials are important? And we talked about this, underwriting, right? Underwriting. So the goal here, okay, guys, the goal here is to harvest your connections that you already have, your network, with the creditors that you're already with, and just refine your approach on terms of how you build your credit. Now, you guys have negatives, um, you know, so that's one of those things. That's perfect, Tim. Yeah, you're right. And Tim, welcome on board. Exactly. Take the curve slow. We talked about that Bugatti example. You have to take it easy, guys. I know it's exciting. You get like all this AUs and primaries, and you just it's like the fresh scent of a new car. It's like accessing that, and just super excited. You got the adrenaline rush. But the problem there, guys, like I said, you're not starting the car off from scratch and building the momentum. You're in a position, because of the industry and the sensitivity around it, of money and credit in general. You're going in that Bugatti at 210 miles an hour, coming in a dirt track, like a lot of fog in the way and a curve. So you have to be very careful with that. All right. So essential, the primary trade lines, these are essentials. These are basically the ones that you can actually go out there and use universally with the distribution network of different merchants. That's what you got to aspire for, because at the end of the day, that's what counts for you at the end of the day, right? By the way, with the non-essentials, you guys are spending a lot of bit of money going back and forth, getting things you probably don't need too. But not to say they're helpful. You need them, of course. But if you can work with the ratio of getting more essentials than not essentials, at one point or the other, like, it's probably going to outweigh far more than what your non-essentials are in terms of what you've built. So I'm going to go ahead and answer a couple of questions here. Now, we're not done. I'm gonna give you guys a bonus, so stay till the end if you're watching. So I'm going to teach you guys something else that I guess might as well give it away, but it's important for you because it's going to help you in your journey to prosperity when it comes to building your credit, right? So Sam says, Ali, I have no essential trade lines, but 5 non-essentials. And then it says, I have a score of 690. For sure, brother. It's because you got rid of a lot of negatives while at the same time building your credit, right? So if you had essentials, your scores, if you had those 5s and there were essentials, your scores would have been in the 700s, 720s, 730s. In terms of diversity. So you start building your essentials, right? You're going to start applying for 1 or 2 cards, and you're going to start increasing your credit and use some of that cards, small balances, carry them forward and use it so that you can actually help yourself. So you start those relationships right away. Okay. So Mr. Crane asks, and I appreciate, and he has actually, I think it's the first time. Yeah. So Mr. Crane, it's good to have you on the live, man. So let's go ahead and answer your question, Mr. Crane. Here it says, Mr. Ali, I would like to ask you how you begin to negotiate a settlement with a creditor which is still in my state statute of limitation. Thought it was no longer in the state. I have a good history. Okay. Never been late until late payments on charge. Okay. So now you're dealing with a charge-off, statute of limitations or not. If it's charged off, the debt no longer exists. So you're with a collector, I'm assuming. Because remember, guys, let me tell you something about charge-offs. Let's talk business. If you're in business and you're starting off, let's say, building a portfolio of customers, you're extending credit to them. Some customers don't pay, guys. It's just the reality of it. It's the business. When you go into business, expect some customers not to pay, period. Just don't expect otherwise. It's unrealistic. That's why there's a lot of things like credit, right? Those customers stop paying. It happens. Circumstances happen. We can't blame them. It's just life. Sometimes it's just their habits, whatever it is. Okay. But once they stop paying you, are you going to stop? Basically, you're going to keep bad debt in your balance sheet, right? A non-paying customer, if you were to sell your business and you have more non-paying customers than you have paying customers, and the buyer and the other side is afraid that your business model is not sustainable and they have to do all the work to collect the money, they'll be afraid to buy your business. But if you cut off the fat, the ones that are dead, like the debts that are charged off, for instance, the balance sheet is restructured and it looks more clean. It looks more green. It's in the positive, and it's a tax write-off too. So these charged off accounts, when they use the word charge off, right? Charge off means it's off the balance sheet. It's no longer existence. The legal status of that debt is killed. It's nada. It's zero, right? Collection agencies, they pick it up. There's portfolios that there's online, they sell, buy. So what happens with these collection agencies is they actually go through an exchange network and they pick up this debt. They have a portfolio, they have a list, and they give you like all these type of limitations on what you can do with the debt. A good amount of it, I'd say a majority of it, there's a quit claim language in the agreement. That quit claim language states that the debt is actually zero. You're taking all the risk, you're assuming it, you're assuming the liability, but there's no accuracy on whether or not the debt is collectible. That itself is pretty much a done deal when it comes to certified accuracy. So to post an item like that that's killed in a credit report with an amount that's factually not accurate, because we know the real amount in accounting terms is zero, right? That means the debt is done. Therefore, if a collection agency puts it up there, the mere fact that that number has not been audited properly through accounting mechanisms, generally accounting accepting principles of the United States, what we call GAAP, the mere fact that they're not accounted for properly, especially contract level wise. We haven't seen the quit claim language. What are some of the disclosures that were given when the debt collector took this debt or bought it for some reason? Because of the fact that it's not accurate factually, especially on a numerical level, cannot even be on the credit report. So what do you guys think about that, right? Tell me in the chat what you guys think about what collectors do. Do you think it's fair? Do you guys think it's fair? Of course not, right? Do you think that these collectors taking off debt that's been killed, is fair? So, yeah, so to deal with that, to answer your question, Mr. Crane, is, it's important to just ignore them and request what I just requested from you guys to listen in on. Say, look, I need your quit claim language. I need to know if the status of this debt is actually existent. If it's charged off, can you show me the paperwork where it says charged off? Can you give me a statement that this debt no longer exists? So that's important, guys, okay? That's important. Keep that in mind. Let's go on the next question. Sorry if I'm going to ask you, Mr. Crane. I see another question by you, so I'm going to go ahead and answer you. Don't worry. We'll get there. Sorry if this has been asked many times before, but I have collections from late payments. Do I need to get them taken care of before I get AUJ? Right. So look, any type of negative items, Tim, or anybody listening for that matter, and thank you, Tim, your contribution as a question is important for everybody to listen to. When you have debt or any negative items in general, it's not a good position to apply. Now, AUs, you're talking about AUs. Are these AUs universal? They're going to stay in your file for a long time? Is it family, friends, associates, or it's things you're paying for? Because keep in mind, what's the purpose of the AU if you're paying for it? The purpose is absolutely funding, right? You guys want to go funding. So what's the point of paying something, funding, when the file is not immaculate? It's not perfect. If you still have things hanging in there, don't get your AU. Wait it out until things are clean, and then apply, even if it's temporary, even if you're buying it, because you have to go for funding. Anything that hinders your ability to get money because of a little negative item there, that's not good for you. That's not good for you. So you have to wait until you fix it and then apply for AU. If it's with family, friends, etc., that's great. You can keep that. You can start, like, even if you have a bankruptcy in your file, you can add them because they're not going anywhere. That AU is going to take a long time. We talk about the dangers of AUs also. If you foresee your family or friends or relatives going through a financial circumstance in the future that they absolutely need to borrow a lot of money from those cards, which are essentials, right? They have AUs because they're adding you, and they're essentials. So keep in mind, if they're going to use that kind of money and you foresee them and you just want to add them temporarily, what's going to happen is you might forget, and that's going to hinder your credit. And all of a sudden, your scores might drop, and you say, well, what happened? So if you get AUs, if it's before funding, if you're paying, especially if you're paying, wait until everything's clean. If it's family, friends, relatives, etc., just keep the dangers of like borrowing in mind, add yourself, and then just keep a calendar and check regularly on those balances, because AUs also report on a statement date. So you'll be able to see what's happening with the balance and the limit they have. So keep that in mind, all right? Yeah, I know, Tim, there's a lot of conflicting info for sure. Take it from me, and I'm not saying this. A lot of people are witness to what type of information I share. I'm not going to give you BS, but think of the logic, right? If you have one derogatory or negative items and you add AUs, and your creditor says we can't give you money because you have this one collection, is it good for you or is it bad for you? Think of the logic. Whatever I teach is common sense approach. Yeah, there's some advanced stuff, but at the end of the day, there shouldn't be any conflicting information if it's common sense logic, and that's the important thing, right? So take it on that common sense approach. Mr. Crane, I have not gotten any letters from collections, but when I correspond with the creditor, a collector responds. Right. So Who's corresponding? Are you sending them, Mr. Crane? Are you sending them a letter, or are you calling them? And get a written request or a written statement from the creditor that the debt is no longer existent, that it's charged off. Ask them, what is the status of this debt? Does it have any monetary value? And they'll tell you, look, we charged it off. We handed it over to this person. Just ask them. That's not what I asked you. What is the monetary status of this account? They're going to say, well, it's nothing. It doesn't exist. Take that, show it to the creditor or collection agency. Sorry. So you can actually have the creditor work against the collection agency by just simply asking one simple letter that says the status of this account does not exist. It's zeroed out. We charged it off. Ask them, what does that mean, charge off? Ask the questions. Remember in my previous video, just before this, guys, I posted a video yesterday. Questions lead to outcomes. You have to ask the questions. So keep that in mind, Mr. Crane. Keep that in mind. So you're going to have to see. You're going to have to ask. If the person representing themselves or the company is sending you a letter saying we represent this firm and it's from a different company, that's a debt collector. If it's not from the letterhead should give you the original creditor or whoever it is that's acting on behalf of that debt. That should tell you who they are. Okay. So any more questions, guys? You're starting to see some of the things. Okay. No problem, Tim. Yeah, like I said, Tim, look, it's common sense approach, right, man? Look, if you think about it, you have AUs, right? You can buy AUs out there. The problem with that is when you buy them, they're temporary. If you have one little negative item that's hindering your ability to borrow credit and you pay for the AU and you don't get the credit and now you have to pay again and again, it's just problematic for you. So you might as well clean everything up before you guys apply, because that's the best route to the outcome that you're looking for. Okay. Hey, Lita, good to see you here. Yeah, you can actually, if you have SageStream letter, you ask them to remove personal identifiers. Keep in mind, personal identifiers are given by creditors, original creditors. If those original creditors are no longer in your accounts because they're negatives and you've removed them, or they've been removed from the credit bureaus themselves, you can take a snapshot from any one of those credit bureaus and be like, hey, look, this name was removed. If you have a copy of those records, which I'm assuming you do, and say, look, SageStream, Equifax removed this name. How come you still have it? Are you a prime credit bureau? Do you have creditors that go to you for approval or underwriting? If not, then what gives you the right to collect information if the major credit reporting agencies have removed them themselves, right? So leverage the information that you already have. So that's one of those tactics. But yeah, you should go ahead and send another letter, but take a copy of one of the ones that, the identifiers were deleted. Use that as leverage and go ahead and use that. Okay. So Mr. Crane, I would like to ask if payment history of a closed account factors in your score. Yeah, it does. It does. Payment history in a closed account, absolutely. It's not just the payment history. It's also the length of history that you have with that creditor. Those are good factors. It depends on how they're closed. Are they closed in a negative status or a positive status? That's another thing to consider. What you're doing is if you close it in a negative status, like charge off, and you had like good positive payment history in the past, that one little charge off basically ruined everything that you built. It's like, at the end of like finishing your bridge and you have the other island you're about to cross, somebody just blows up that last ranch and then basically everything just falls off. That's what happens. If no cars can cross it, it's a useless bridge. So that's what ends up happening. If it's closed in a negative status, it's not going to do you any good. A lot of people say, oh, no, it's not true. Yeah, positive payment history. Yeah, but what is the underwriter going to look at? Is going to look at the previous? No, he's going to look at, oh my God, this is a charge off. That's the first thing in the mind, right? On an underwriting basis, even if it's an AI, if they see it like, oh, artificial intelligence is reading your reports, and they see like, oh, what's the conclusion of the journey? Oh, he turned out to be evil. Okay, well, he's an evil person, right? So it's the same as an account status. If the story ends in a negative way, that's the only thing they'll look at. It doesn't matter if it's artificial intelligence or individuals reading your credit reports for underwriting. Keep that in mind. The positive payment history is only attributed to accounts that are closed on a positive standing in terms of account status. So that's a factor that you have to keep in mind, all right? Dalia, charge-off accounts, how to be removed from your creditors. So look, Doa, you have to contact me for that. You can actually email me. The pricing really varies, man. Like, I'll be honest with you, you can do a credit sweep, you can do quite a bit of things, but keep that in mind. I'm not, one of the things that I want to tell you guys today is, if you're looking for bargains and stuff like that, you have other people who can help you with your credit repair. I work with customers that have a long-term vision because I want to be doing a lot of different things with them. It's not just credit on a temporary basis. What I want to do is I want to help my customers attain a certain level of financial confidence, take their level of confidence, and help them improve their wealth. The whole channel is built on, bespoke mentoring on a financial level. If you think about it that way, you can't bargain for your future. You can't give it a price tag. There's no value. So the way I work is I price it. Yeah, it's going to be a lot more expensive than the other guys, but there's a lot more to it than that we do together to help you reach a certain level of financial confidence and milestone. And it's result oriented. So that's important. So you can email me, talk@bestcreditresources.com. Right there. I put it there for you. And then I'll look at your, situation. We'll talk a little bit just like this. I'll take my time to get, 20, 30 minutes and speak to you about you and your wife. And let's see what we can do, man. I'm more than open to investigating. But, when it comes to charge-off accounts and stuff like that, you can look at the way that the account is reporting. And there's a couple of videos here on my channel. There's a playlist on personal credit. A lot of great content, man. You can read through it and you can try your different approaches. If it doesn't work, then by all means, you can reach out to me and we can work together. But I encourage you to explore the opportunities that are already existing prior to reaching out. Now, if you don't have the time or luxury to do any of that, then by all means, reach out to me as well. So Mr. Crane says, I like your simplicity. Yeah, simplicity, man. It's not just simplicity, right? Yes, there's common sense, but it's also the fact of logic. If you think about it, your credit profile is a snapshot of your habitual levels of actions taken over a certain period of time. That is a spitting image in a credit report. The creditors are essentially spinning the image of who you are to the credit bureaus, and the bureaus are basically printing a snapshot of an agglomeration of all these creditors and are saying this is who you are. And an underwriter is basically looking at that to shortcut their process to risk analysis, to provide you or extend you with credit. So that's one of those things that you have to keep in mind. All right. So simply look at it this way. Common sense, yeah, simple, but at the same time logical. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. Anything else in terms of questions, guys? You guys any other questions? By all means, please go ahead and ask. Go ahead and ask. Ooh, I keep getting these spam emails, guys. Okay. So Lita asks, Equifax has mischaracterized her gender. So what you got to do, Lita, is call them. Do you have a number? Call them and make them see the obvious mistake. Because sometimes what happens, small things like that, Lita, if it's not account related, if it's just personal identifiers, guys, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and say, look, I'm a female. You're miscategorizing, clearly whoever sent you my information had it wrong because it's not compliant or it's not certified. Specifically, I showed you my ID. So pick up the phone and give them a call and try to fix that over the phone. It'll be nice. This is something that's their mistake. It's an obvious mistake. They'll help you, Lita. Pick up the phone and call them because they'll be able to give you the information that you need. Specifically, make the adjustments right off the get-go. You can even say, look, is there a way to, speed this up? And they'll give you a fax number. You can fax it in as well. Mr. Crane asks, I would like to kindly ask you how you differentiate a debt buyer from a debt collector. Yeah, right. A debt buyer and a debt collector, same thing. A debt buyer is a person who's buying debt from a creditor who's charged off. A debt collector is collecting on behalf of that creditor on an assignment agreement, attempting to salvage whatever scenario, and they have a higher split in profits if they're successful. But the status of the account remains the same. It's a charged off debt. It's gone to a collection agency. It's done. So a debt buyer buys a portfolio of debt. A debt collector collects on behalf of creditors, try to salvage scenarios where they can still make a little bit of profit. But if they can, then it's a done deal, right? Tim, you're going to have to email me, buddy. I appreciate you want to work with me. So what you can do is talk@bestcreditresources.com, guys. It's actually there. I don't even know how to highlight my own comments, guys, to be honest with you. But that's it. talkingbestcreditresources.com. There's a lot of videos, Tim, that you can go through on my channel specifically to help you. So please feel free to use that. Any other questions, guys? Any other questions for anybody here? I hope you guys are enjoying. Bonus content is coming up, guys. I'm gonna finish off with something very powerful. It's gonna help all of you guys who are listening in and tuning in. And by the way, guys, are you giving this video a thumbs up? I hope that the information is valuable enough. Give it a thumbs up. Share with those that you feel would benefit from this content. After this, if you're watching a replay, leave me a comment below, and if some of the questions I wasn't able to answer for you, I'll be able to answer it in the comment section. Mr. Crane asks, are CRAs part of the agreement if an account is paid in full and creditors offer a letter of deletion? Well, first of all, let's clarify something. There is a lot of creditors out there that will work with you and say, look, I do a pay for delete. I'll do it. You just have to do this or you have to do that. Keep that in mind. Pay for delete is actually illegal. It's not allowed. A lot of people say, well, no, we can do it. We have the. They can do it as long as the credit bureaus are not observing this transaction. It's actually illegal. It's going against the subscription agreement. So what I do also on this side is there are certain businesses that want to extend credit to their customers. I help them set up the credit reporting side. When I do that, the credit bureaus do an audit process. They come in and they actually go through a compliance check. When you sign an agreement with a credit bureau, you have to comply. They can sue you because if they actually get caught and get sued by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that liability can fall on the creditor for misrepresenting information. A pay for delete is actually a very huge violation of that subscription agreement with the credit bureaus. Heads up, okay? So that's the first clarity I wanted to provide. When it comes to creditors, a debt buyer takes the money. That's it. That's all. It's done, right? They buy it for like 10, 15 cents on the dollar or whatever the case. They try to collect on the whole amount. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is we know the debt is debt. The success ratio of debt collection is very small, but they take the bargain anyway. So whatever they collect outweighs whatever they spend. So that's how they're still in business. But the reality of that is you guys know that all this is BS. It's not really existent. So to clarify that, we need to understand, hey, what are some of the things we need to look at our credit report and say, look, clearly these are misrepresenting information. Any debt collection amount that's put in an amount level, like let's say you guys owe $1,000, it's a debt collection, it's putting it as a snapshot in your credit bureau. First of all, that's illegal because the debt amount is inaccurate, factually speaking. The right to report is questionable because it's never been verified through proper audited accounting standards. Second thing is these guys have no idea of like how they're reporting. They're not even compliant to the standards of the EOSCR. That's a whole thing I teach about my course, guys. So you can actually pick this information up at prominentwealthgroup.com. If you want the course, it's $9.97. It's very thorough. There's a lot more content to it than that. It's once in a lifetime thing because once you get access to it, we renew information once in a while. It's a lifetime membership. So you either do that or you go through the journey of credit repair, learn. But these are some of the things that you absolutely need to know. All right. So I hope I answered that. So no problem, Tim. And no problem, Mr. Crane. All right, look, guys, I'm gonna finish it off in the next few minutes. You guys can still pop in your questions while I'm giving you guys this bonus material. I think it's important that you gain the information here. So as a bonus, now, okay, where can my course be found? All right, guys. I'm gonna type it up for you. It's in prominentwealthgroup.com. This one. You have to register as a student, then you can buy the course and you get all the content. It's distributed in videos. And there's templates and things like that. You can be added to a Facebook mastermind group. I'm going to be starting adding content there as well, enhanced templates and everything like that. But that's where the course is found, guys. All right. Now let's get to the bonus material as promised. So as we were speaking, one of the things that I want you guys to do when you're actually fixing your credit or before you actually get in there is understand what you want out of it. Like reverse engineer it. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say you say, Ali, I want to get into a home. If that's the case, how's your rental history? If it's a positive rental history, you haven't missed a payment, get a reference letter from your landlord. That's one of those things, right? I'm going to give you some insights on what you can do. Go to Rental Karma, use Experience Boost, do all these extra little things that'll help your basic level of underwriting when it comes to mortgages. Get your scores above the 680 mark. Build essentials, because now you have the tools, right? Now you know that essentials are more important than non-essentials in terms of primary trade lines. Build the essentials on the side, use some non-essentials. Get the reference letters from the landlord, statement of accounts, Experience Boost, all these type of things, Rental Karma, use third-party bureaus, and build a solid profile for underwriting a mortgage. Because if your rent is much higher than the mortgage amount, it's an undisputable evidence that, look, you can afford it, especially if you have good references. The second thing you want to do is continue on building your essentials. Every 6 to 12 months, pick up the phone and call. What's going to end up happening, guys, is over time, you're going to start seeing a huge level of increase of your credit. And believe it or not, I've seen somebody using that same strategy in a matter of a year get into 800 range, and he was in the 490s. His credit was terrible. So, there's a lot of things you guys can do. And on the one more thing that I'm gonna finish off with is, you have to be willing and eager to spend time to give yourself the chance to learn, right? If you're not giving yourself the opportunity to go out there and learn, you're depriving yourself of what everybody else is capable of doing. These are basic level things. It takes a simple search, getting that information, going out there, applying. But beyond that, right, look at your goals. And if your goal is, look, I want to build a lot of credit, get a lot of money, get into a home, don't stop it there. You can always go higher and higher. And you only thank yourself down the road for it, right? There's nobody else to thank but yourself. So that's important, okay? So keep that in mind, guys. So reference letters, when it comes to, landlords, Rental Karma, Experience Boost, these are free things. Build more essential primaries. Start salvaging or at least cultivating some of the non-essentials on your side as well. Call your creditors up. See if there's any promotions, balance transfers, things that you can take cash from a high interest debt to a less interest debt, and balance out your portfolio to increase your cash flow as well. That's one of those things I'd like to encourage you guys to do. Mr. Crane asks, I would like to ask, how did you come to know what you know now? So, a lot of people will say I read books. A lot of people will say I had great mentors. I learned from this person and that person, and that's all they have. Truth be told, I started in this business when I was very young, about 20 years old. And in that time, I actually started prior to the recession. I was doing a lot of debt arbitrage. I used to buy these huge portfolios of debts, and I used to do settlements on behalf of my clients. So we'd approach BOA, Citibank with portfolios of $100-200 million and settle on those because that would work very well for us, right? So we had a huge arbitration firm in New York. We sold the business eventually because it wasn't, after the housing market crisis, it just didn't work anymore. And then we started getting into the credit repair business. I had a couple of partners, so we started doing that. And then I learned, I had some attorneys help me. One of them is called Albert. He's no longer here. He's actually in Singapore now. He's a wealth management attorney over there, working with a Swiss bank. So I learned from those guys. I attended some of the court hearings and stuff like that. I took my time. I took notes. I was an eager student. From that perspective, I learned quite a bit. I definitely read quite a bit of books on credit, dealing with financial institutions, understanding their underwriting, understanding the effects of bad credit, the snapshots of the credit of consumer profile, all these type of things. And I basically decided to take it seriously, man. I read reports. I look at case laws. I look at the legalities. What's right, what's wrong. I pick up the phone and call everybody I possibly can to get the questions answered. And from that perspective, I created and formulated my own understanding of it. Was very successful helping my customers in a very alternative way, of course, not traditional. And then, created this channel for you guys. So this channel is not just credit, there's a lot of things here. There's business acquisitions. I tell somebody, if you guys want to learn about business acquisition, you can come here. You want to expand your business, you come here. You want to get some money for your business, you come here. It's education at its top level, because I won't hold information back from you guys. There's courses, there's premium content for two reasons. It's because the level of commitment you make when you spend more, mentally you're more ready to go out there and do more. A lot of people spend and they quantify things by value. If I try to give myself in a bargain and become a commodity, you guys won't appreciate the context. It's good to have good treasures that you can value once in a while. And that's what these courses are and my services are. You have this free content. I'm sure you guys agree that some of this content is outweighs far more it's far more superior than some of these guys are asking you to pay for. But beyond that, there are some premium level content that you guys can have access to, like this course at Prominent Wealth Group. And then, of course, the CDR sweep, which is the highest level of consumer credit repair out there with enhancement with it, right? And coaching on a month-to-month basis. People text me, message me, while I'm, of course I have a dedicated schedule, but that's how I do it. So, keep that in mind. And thank you, Lita, for endorsing the course. I appreciate it. You know how good it is. So you're definitely there, and I hope you're enjoying the context of the course. Mr. Crean, that's a legal question, buddy. I won't be able to help you with that because I'm not an attorney, right? A legit summon, let's just look at common sense approach. If they give you a court, specific location and say there's a case number, and you call the clerk and they say, is this existent? And they say, no, that never exists. That's frivolous, right? That's like basically bullying you. It's a bullying tactic. It's against the FDCPA. So therefore, you can actually sue them, countersue them for that, and take it to the police department, because that's called theft. That's attempt to rob you, right? You can take it on a legal level and felony charges, et cetera, et cetera. If it's a legitimate summon, you'll be able to call the court, and they'll give you the case number, and they see that this is actually in place and stuff like that, and they'll give you information on it. So that's how you can differentiate that. I'm not a lawyer guy. I'm not supposed to give you more info, but common sense approach as usual, right? So just do that. So I hope you guys had fun today. I hope you guys learned information. Mr. Crane is getting excited. He's asking all sorts of questions. So I'm going to actually leave it off at that, Mr. Crane. Unfortunately for today, just to answer your question, this whole not mine thing is not really a strategy for credit repair. It's just being ridiculous and trying to make magic happen with fingers crossing and hoping that you get an outcome. It's not really. It's the same thing as swearing an affidavit and sending it off, and a police report as identity theft and trying to sweep your credit. That way, it's illegal. If you get caught, you can get arrested. Actually, somebody's teaching on this platform on YouTube, and I think that they're actually teaching the wrong things. A lot of people, I'm not going to name any names, guys. I don't like to attack or target. I have some people that are in my team who are doing analytics, who watch these type of videos, get back to me and say, look, here's certain things they mention. Is this accurate or is this not? Or they mention, whatever the case. Nowadays people making it look normal that, I went to prison. It's nothing. I'll be honest with you guys. Would you rather not spend time with your family than spend time in prison with a record that's so bad that investors won't even touch you with a 10-foot pole? How is that nothing? You guys have to think about it. Like, this type of things are being taught on YouTube. Like, prison was nothing. Don't worry, we were young. Yeah, but we all have children. We all have parents. We grew up in we choose the environment we wanted, right? We have the decisions in our hands, the choices we can make. If you say this is nothing, I can go to prison, I was okay, I got out, I'm a better man, that's good. But think about the time that you sacrificed and the record that's permanently stamped onto you. No investor is going to touch you with a 100-foot pole. I guarantee you that. If you want to do business at a higher level, one of those things, you cannot normalize and conform to that being normal. That's not normal, buddy. That's crazy. Okay? So that's one of those things. I don't endorse any channels, Mr. Crane, but feel free to look through my channel. And what's going to happen is YouTube's going to give you some recommendation. It's up to you to discover that and see what information you can take, right? So I appreciate the honesty and feedback. Lita, once again, thank you so much. Yes, it's true. I do have a lot of free content. It's very in-depth. I don't try to shortcut it. And, I'm not a person who likes to make you feel good or a motivational coach or anything like that. I think there's plenty of that already out there. I don't want to be another commodity. Motivation to me is money, because it doesn't know any emotions, right, guys? You just go out there, make money, and you go on with your life, and you do what you can with the best of your ability. But outside of that perspective, you also have to start taking some actions. You can't just sit there, consume information, and not do anything, because things are changing constantly. You have to adapt to that change. You have to go out there and proceed with strategies that'll give you, concise direction that you can depend on and achieve your goals that way. So keep that in mind. All right. So I hope this video was helpful, guys. Now, if you guys have a couple more questions, I don't mind. I'll spend a couple more minutes here just to give you guys some proper closure here. So far, so good, guys. Essentials and non-essentials. That's what you guys learned today. You got to harvest your relationships. All right. When you add authorized users, make sure your credit is clean. Don't spend money on authorized user if your credit is not clean. That's one of those things I want to tell you guys. If you're doing with friends, family, associates, make sure these AUs, they don't foresee any type of debt increase over a short period of time, because that can affect the way the utilization is on their credit. Therefore, it's going to affect you indirectly as well. Actually, directly, especially if you're an AU. So I hope that I was clear, concise, and helpful today. I don't see anybody else asking any more questions. Okay, so once again, go through the channel. If you feel that there's more content, you want to learn, you want to ask questions on, the channel has a lot of videos. I plan on putting out more. I'm doing my best to do that. I'm definitely going to be adding a lot more different perspective when it comes to content and credit outside of what you hear in this channel and like the platform itself on YouTube. There's a lot of misleading info, like you said, but there's also a lot of people who are doing good out there. Another person I highly recommend, actually this one person I can actually recommend, because I follow him as well. I think he's very honest. He's down to earth. He doesn't BS. His content is long form. So yeah, absolutely. He rants about certain things once in a while. I find him funny. But his name is Kenny Eugene. Okay, so I'll actually write it out. I'll endorse him. He didn't pay me or anything like that. He's a very genuine guy, and I have genuine respect for him because he's trying to do good by his family and himself, and the people who are following him. I think he's very credible in terms of like the value he provides. But definitely you want to check him out. I think he's very thorough with what he teaches. And basically that's it. That's it. So Mr. Timothy Hall. All right. You had a question. Let me see if I can pick it up here. Where did you ask me the questions? Yeah. All right. Timothy Hall. You had a question. I don't see your question. I'm trying to find it. I am trying to find it. I cannot find it, my friend. I'm sorry. You're going to have to ask me the question one more time. Yeah. No problem, Lita. No problem. I'm glad you guys found it useful because, again, essentials are better when it comes to value. Yeah, Kenny Eugene is definitely a very solid guy. I'll be honest with you, man. This guy, he knows what he's doing. I respect him. He's a hardworking person. People took advantage of the program he launched. I think was good. But I pray for him and his well-being and his success, genuinely. I hope one day in the future we can do a collab video or something. Maybe we can both come in and give you guys some info. Maybe I'll meet with him or something like that. We'll do a live and answer some of you guys' questions. But I'm trying to work with people who are genuine, who are like-minded. You guys watch my video on the meetup group I started. It's called the Wealth Ladder. There's gonna be a lot more meetups that we're gonna be doing. Quite a lot of content we're gonna be giving off. There you go. Kenny just popped into the chat. Thank you, bro. Yo, guys, he's actually there. If you look at Kenny Eugene, follow his channel. All right, do it for me. You're gonna learn a lot of value from Kenny. He's a really genuine individual. All right. Now, Tim, no problem, man. You take care of yourself. I hope the content you found was helpful, and we look forward to see you guys at least next time on another live, or hopefully you can comment in one of my videos to ask me some questions. Quinn is asking, primary call Z Black Card. Z Black Card. My God, you guys are all over this, aren't you? All right, guys, look, they started off wrong. When you put it on your website that we're going to do a backdated primary trade line, it's illegal to say that. You can't do these type of things. You can't solicit and advertise, especially like what the credit bureaus have is everybody has access to this. Archives, web archives, they could snapshot what you previously said and stuff like that, do research on who you are as a company, both online and on paper, and then basically start you off. After that, they probably went through some evaluation process with the bureaus. I don't know what's the story in that. They have these primaries they want to do, and they say there's no fees. But guys, you're paying on a monthly basis, aren't you? If you're paying certain things on a monthly basis, how come there's no fees? You're better off keeping your money in a bank. That's my thoughts, at least, On the upside of it, they say, oh, we got these luxury cards and all these type of things. Do you think the hotels are dumb enough to just not do the same thing? There's no patent on this type of stuff. These are basic level marketing stuff. So hotels have a lot of advanced distribution and networks that they can do their own luxury things if they wanted to. And they don't want to be affiliated with somebody that doesn't have a track record of some sort of service that they provide. Most hotels are run by servicing companies. They control the way things are put in, the way the accommodations are provided, all these type of things. That's my opinion, guys. Again, you're free to do whatever you want. I'm not gonna sway you from making a decision. But guys, to me, it's common sense. Always, it's a common sense approach. You want to get a Z Black card, you can do that. And I tell one of my friends, like, you don't want to overdress something that's not realistic. These we talked about that Bugatti scenario, right? Like on that fast curve, you're going at 210 miles an hour. To have a luxury status, to understand what it means, to be able to afford an Amex Black card and not compare it to a Z Black, there's a lot of difference in that, in terms of wealth, in terms of mindset, in terms of affordability. And it's not a fair comparison, because the people with the Amex Black card have access to VIP lounges in airports and a lot of prestigious services, and they can afford that. And because they can afford that, they have a different type of network that they deal with. Unless otherwise you have access to the network and not just a metal card, you guys have to wake up to the reality that, look, maybe all this is I don't know, maybe it doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's not worth it. Now, I don't have to tell you this. And I come from an investment banking background. I deal with family offices. You know what family offices are? They're individuals who have a portfolio of their own with great success when liquidity events, when they came across a lot of money with a minimum of $100 million. We have institutions that we deal with on a month-to-month basis that have hundreds of millions of dollars. The type of pedigree and mindset it takes to deal with these type of people is a lot more enhanced. You have to be very thorough. So if I were to go ahead and ask them, hey, join my Z Black card community or whatever, the correlation is not there, guys, right? So if you want to understand what the benefit of VIP is, you build your wealth and you're going to get it. It's as simple as that. No card is going to change that for you. The perception is, you guys have to do it. Now, I'm not bashing anybody. I think it's a great business model. The problem is I don't agree with the way it's structured. And definitely I wouldn't go ahead and drive by a Tim Hortons or McDonald's to show off a luxury card. I'd probably do it in a private jet where I swipe it to reserve a few hours to travel to Spain or Barcelona or something like that with a proper Black card, right? So that's the way it's got to be done. So I hope that helps, guys. I hope that answers your question. Now, I hope I don't have to ask any more questions on the Z Black card. Yeah, 30th day. Keep in mind, Mr. Crane, there's 45 days. If you add additional information, it could be up to 45 days. Keep that in mind. But it's when the certified is when they receive it, when you get the signature, your return receipt, that's when the clock starts. Open up Google Calendar or put it up. Remind yourself to check. Kenny, thank you, man. I appreciate it, man. And that's why, like I said, man, you're one real guy. So best of success to you. Best of success to you. And I love your content as well, brother. Lita asks, is it illegal for a person to charge monthly for a personal AU? Technically, it's not a banking product. So to distribute a banking product, to benefit from it, especially when they're not licensed to do so, yeah, that's illegal. But if you pay them out of goodwill, in extension for that, and I recognize that you're not licensed and I'm willing to pay, and you have these clauses in the agreement, even if anybody were to get sued or something happens, you're protected because you acknowledge that. So keep that in mind, all right? So that's it, guys. That is it. Thank you for showing up today. Any more questions? Last minute questions, guys. I love it. Last minute questions. Feels like I'm selling some sort of fish in the markets, guys. Dealing with you guys. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. All right. So we're about done. It's about 2:10, so we extended it by 10 minutes past the hour. So again, essentials, non-essentials, right? AUs, add them only when everything's clean. Just keep that in mind. Keep the metaphor of the Bugatti going around a curve at 210 miles an hour. Also understand that use common sense and logic on everything you do. Work with your existing creditors when it comes to essentials. Build up the relationship there and go get the money. All right. So that's it, guys. I have nothing else to add unless you guys have any questions, but I don't see anybody asking questions. Everybody's tired. Lunchtime. Yeah. All right. So look, I'll be off for the week. I'll do some videos. I'll be in New York for a couple of days. I got to take care of some business. And then I guess I hope to see you guys on my next live, if not my videos. Comment, guys. Ask questions. What happens when you comment in videos that I'm not even doing lives on is other people can see those comments. And if it's like very challenging and stuff like that, I love to answer those type of questions, right? So people get to learn and they get a better experience from the content that I offer. And that's all thanks to you guys, right? So I hope you guys can look through the content that I already have out there, ask some interesting questions, and hopefully we can help everybody in this channel. Now, I appreciate all you guys showing up, especially, Dua, Dahlia, Mr. Kenny Eugene. Great to see you here, man. It's an honor to have you. And Mr. Crane, any other hidden info and report that creditors and consumers doesn't want or see? Okay. So just investigate your report. Get an accurate snapshot. Get it from the original credit bureau and try to read as much as you can in terms of the information that's being shared about you. Like Identity IQ is another great platform that I look at. Try to read everything in your report. Make sure it's logical. Make sure it's common sense, right? Look at the payments, the monthly amount, the debt, the credit, the balance, the status of the account, the payment grid, the inconsistencies in that, and try to dissect it that way. That's all you literally need. And the rest is really a strategy on how to do it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, I'm going to let you guys go. It was great to see all of you here. So much energy. I hope next time you guys bring some more interesting questions. It'll be great to have some clarity for you guys. And I hope to see you guys next time. Once again, Ali Tarafdar, your guide and mentor. Bye for now.